This may be relatively uncharted territory when it comes to guns and ammunition, but there's a history of corporate America taking actions on other divisive issues with mixed results. Nancy Koehn tracks these kind of corporate actions and is watching the developments this week. She's a business historian at the Harvard Business School. So sadly, there have been several mass shootings that companies could have taken a stand on. What's different now?
I think we've reached some kind of tipping point, Hari, in terms of public opinion, public demand for action, a sense that a line has been crossed and something has to be done, and that's distinguished this moment from other moments after great tragedies in these mass shootings.
How much risk is it that these companies are facing? Are they doing sort of economic calculations, saying, okay, well, this is all of the possible customers who are NRA members that I might upset, but then there are more gun owners who aren't NRA members, and there's more people who don't own guns?
There's always an important element of calculation and making smart bets and thinking about alternative scenarios to any act of governance, anything a serious leader does. So I think that's a part of this, but I don't think that's the entire story. I don't think most of these companies, these men and women at the top of companies, are thinking, I need to get the NRA. I think this is about, we need to change the rules of engagement, and we need to pressure the most important representative group for gun owners into leading for responsible gun safety. I think this is about, how do we begin some kind of chain of action that makes a positive difference? So the piece here is partly about calculation. It's partly about what will my employees and my investors, my communities, my consumers think. And then there's a piece of this that is simply about men and women who lead wanting to take constructive action in something that they do every day, which is try to move organizations toward a desired end.
Well, you also have a situation of kind of a backlash in the case of Delta Airlines in Georgia and the tax breaks that they could have gotten. I mean, this is a consequence of them taking a position.
Yes, it most certainly is. And I suspect that Delta will not be the only large corporation that suffers some kind of backlash or negative consequences of that company taking a stand on this issue. But again, governance is all about trade-offs and reaction in the face or toward the end of something more positive. So I think all the companies that have decided to wade in this, and you notice that that Dick's Sporting Goods says no more assault rifles sold, and we're going to raise the age for gun owners. Walmart follows within 24 hours. So there's also this important aspect of leaders looking at other leaders and saying, well, he did it or she did it. They're willing to take the heat. I'm willing to take the heat, not only for my organization, but a piece of this is always also about the leader's moral compass.
Finally, put this in sort of historical perspective for us. On the one hand, how long do consumers remember why it is that they're boycotting something? And on the other hand, you look at something like divestment from South Africa that was a slow build, but it did lead to change.
Absolutely. So I think this is one of those, both and answers that we typically have seen, that consumers, boycott or retaliate against a brand and then come back to it or have short attention spans. But we've also seen that over time, this kind of action on the part not only of consumers, but of activists and employees, investors, bankers investigating, how their portfolios are allocated vis-a-vis gun manufacturers, all that action is in a sense unorchestrated, but it's of a part. And that part, history suggests, makes a difference over time. Not in a one fell swoop, but over time, great changes have happened from this kind of unorchestrated and unorthodox action, with business playing a role.
All right, Nancy Koehn of Harvard Business School, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.